Cowes was hosting just 2 events this weekend, but what was lacking in quantity was more than made up for in quality, with the popular Royal Corinthian Yacht Club's Vice Admiral's Cup attracting 35 boats in 4 classes, including 6 TP52s. The squadron was also running the second round of the Red Funnel Cowes Keelboat Championship, but once again the weather was set to play a crucial role in the weekend's sailing. The Vice Admiral's Cup was meant to be a 3-day event, but Friday proved to be a windless affair. The 4 classes, sailing on 2 courses, went afloat to wait for wind, but it was to be a fruitless wait. The 13 quarter-tonners and 5 X-35s shared a course, and they sat and waited under the north shore, while the 2 larger classes drifted around on Ryde Middlebank. This course was for the 50 to 52 footers, comprising 6 TP52s and the lonely Far 50 Chernihiv 2, plus the 44 to 46 footers, which included 9 Far 45s and a single DK 46. But eventually, as the wind refused to appear, all the classes were sent ashore and racing was abandoned for the day. Saturday again dawned windless, but at least there was sunshine and something of interest to watch on Trinity Landing, as the old Morning Cloud 2, now called Opposition, was relaunched in all her refound glory following a winter-long refit at Lallow's yard. 7 of Sir Edward Heath's original crew were on hand to toast the historic yacht, which gleamed under her new varnish. Of the 5 Morning Clouds which Edward Heath built in his 10-year sailing career, this one was the most successful and was part of the winning British Admiral's Cup team in 1971. Our cameras have followed the refit and we'll be bringing you a full report on the rebuild soon. After a wait ashore in the hope that wind would appear, it duly obliged, as a light west-southwesterly sprung up and racing was possible at last. The squadron decided to abandon Red Funnel windward-leeward racing and reverted instead to running around the Cannes race off their shoreline, which would count for the Cowes Keelboat Solent series. 12 Darings turned out, and after a beat up the island shore against the tide, the second leg saw them riding the tide down the middle of the Solent, led by Dionysus, with Darius in a close second and Ding Dong in third. After another beat, this time up the mainland shore, and a reach back to the finish, it was Darius which took the win after a 1 3/4 hour race. Dionysus was second, and Dynamite had pulled through to third. Only 4 Etchells came to the start. They were led around the course by China White, with Palaver taking second and Blue Jeans taking third. The Dragon fleet comprised 8 boats, which enjoyed a close race lasting an hour and a half. Gabriel Wilkinson Cox's Jerboa took the winner's gun just over a minute ahead of Norbert, which was only 12 seconds ahead of Njord in third place. In the Vice Admiral's Cup, classes 0 and 1 were taken to the Western Solent, where the force 2 to 3 from the west-southwest gave just enough puff for the yachts to get over the strong flood tide. Race 1 for the TP52s was won by Nicholas Zenstrom's Ran, with Charles Dunstone's Rio sailing with Team Origin branding taking second, and Colm Barrington's Flash Glove in third. The TP52 John Merricks of the Volvo RYA Keelboat programme trailed the other TPs, while the Far 50 Chernihiv 2 brought up the rear. At the start of the second race, the young sailors aboard John Merricks went for a port tack pin-end start, but were forced to tack under the starboard tackers. In the strong flood tide, the right was favoured on the beat, and soon all the fleet tacked onto port. Down the run, Flash Glove led Ran in the dying breeze, which didn't allow these powerful boats to show us what they're capable of. After a second very short beat and run, Ran had passed Flash Glove and led into the finish to make it 2 out of 2. Flash Glove finished second and Stay Calm took third. After her good second in the first race, Rio had a poor race, coming in last of the TPs and ahead only of Chernihiv too. The 44 to 46 putters were also racing on this course, and in the first race, the Par 45 Werewolf showed the way home ahead of Fortis XL and Atomic. In the second race, Class 1 also had to deal with the strong tide on the start line. Fortis XL, like John Merrick's in the earlier start, came in on port, but she chose a sensible strategy of taking sterns, finding a gap and heading off to the favoured right-hand side of the beat. Meanwhile, Atomic was struggling to get around the pin, resulting in having to take a turn before setting off after the others. Or most of them, as the sole DK46 Shockwave made a poor start, well behind the rest of the fleet. At the top mark, Fortis held the lead, but only just from Freddie Freeloader and Werewolf. Atomic had done well to pull up to 6th, and she was to go on carving through the fleet to finish this race in 3rd, behind Freddie Freeloader and Fortis XL. Over in the central Solent, the X35s and quarter-tonners managed to get in 3 short races. Among the 5 X35s, Cool Runnings was the boat on form, taking 2 firsts and a second, while Vortex scored a first and 2 seconds. The quarter-tonners had mustered 13 boats, but again there was 1 boat on form, despite the light and tricky conditions, with Darren Marston's Catch scoring an impressive 2 firsts and a second. It was no surprise when Sunday morning brought no wind, this time under gloomy skies, and for the second time in 3 days the wind refused to oblige, and the cannons stayed silent. After a long wait, both the squadron and the Royal Corinthian bowed to the inevitable, and racing for all classes was abandoned, bringing a frustrating weekend to a disappointing conclusion. Especially so for the Vice Admiral's Cup sailors, as insufficient races were completed to form a series, so all the sailors went home frustrated and empty-handed. Well, that's it from the Windless Cows. Join us next week for the return of jog and rorke racing and the next round of the Cows Keelboat Solent series.